from a low blood sugar that caused unconsciousness and a car accident, all the way to now re-entering the professional athletic realm of tennis. One of my clients and I had a great conversation today about what it took to regain control over his blood sugars, the pieces that he never learned over the last 30 years that in the last week, he has dramatically transformed his control of his blood sugars, and ultimately what you can do to master your blood sugars, not only for the controlled aspect, but also so that you can live your best life while living and thriving with type 1 diabetes. If you don't know who I am, my name is Matt Van de Vecht. I'm a certified master fitness trainer and nutritionist. And today, Keith and I had a fantastic conversation about what it took to get him from zero to hero. And he's going to share that with you today. So we'll get into our theme song and then hop straight into the interview. Hope you enjoy. Cool. Well, Keith, I am excited to have you here. We've had quite a few weeks since you signed up, and we've been working together. But to give everyone some context to your story, I'd love to start with asking you, how long have you had diabetes? What do you use to manage it? And I guess just kind of a little bit about yourself.
I've had diabetes for a long time, about 33 years, late onset juvenile diabetes at age around 29. And I currently am 62, although I still have the mentality of a teenager. But the management prior to some of these new devices that you have, it's improved a great deal from, pig insulin to things the only way you were to detect if you were out of range was that urine stick.
Right.
Which, no way to check to see if you're in range. Yeah, it's come a long way. It's amazed me how far it's progressed.
Absolutely. I know we complain about the 15-minute lag with the CGMs these days, but testing urine a little bit more than 15 minutes behind with what your blood sugars were, right?
Well, I grew up. What was interesting is I grew up with a father, late onset juvenile diabetes, and as at that time they told everyone, "Oh, it skips generations. You won't go." And then, but I used to see what he would go through for low blood sugar, which was fairly common. That aggression or goofy extreme, and I mean, you knew. And the fortunate thing, me and my brothers talk about this often, when my dad would had the goofy extreme, we'd start laughing because he was hilarious. And mom would be going, "Shut up, just encourage it."
Like, this is serious.
Yeah, and it was. And we were kids, but yeah, so I grew up with it my whole life. I didn't have it my whole life. But when I did, it was pretty dramatic. I had covered 4 states. I was out of town at a Holiday Inn all by myself. And I woke up in the morning and I just couldn't walk more than 2 steps. And I had to sit down. Fatigued, just totally fatigued. And I felt really terrible. And I didn't know I had diabetes, but then I called a doctor friend of mine, because I was in the medical industry and at the Cleveland Clinic, and he said, "Just come here and I'll set everything up." Didn't tell me what I had, what was going on. And so I said, "All right, I'm on my way." It's 2.5-hour drive, an insatiable thirst. I mean, literally, you would drink a glass of water, you'd put it down, and you'd be cottonmouth. You'd have to. And so, like a dope, I picked up two liters of regular Pepsi.
Oh, man. Well, you didn't know yet, right?
Oh, I know. Exactly. And
Yeah.
I went to the Cleveland Clinic. I made it. And I remember being in the room. They gave me took a urinalysis and a blood stick, and came back. There was a guy with a gurney knocking on the door. And I said, "What are you here for?" I'm in a suit and tie at this point. And he said, "No, you're not going anywhere. You're going in a room." They couldn't even read it. It was so high at the time. I don't know if they had the capability or why, but they couldn't read the number because it was off the charts.
Wow.
And so I spent the next 5 days in the hospital.
Goodness. Yeah, you and I have a similar start. The 2 bottles of Pepsi is a rough start, but see, I found out that I might have diabetes. I said it's a possibility. And the night before, as I guess a last hurrah, I won a pancake eating contest. And then the next day I got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And blood sugars were off the charts. I wonder why, right?
Yeah,
Pancakes.
go figure that one. Well,
Uh,
what's interesting? When I came home, my family was there to meet me. Come
hmm.
from Hungarian German family, and I had a cool thing called a glucometer that no one had ever seen before, including my dad, who had suffered with from diabetes. So I tested everyone's blood sugar. They all wanted to be tested. And my brother, who was a collegiate football player, great athlete, I tested him and the number came up 360.
Oh no.
And I said, no, I go, let's redo it. Maybe I just did something wrong.
Yeah.
And it was even higher.
Goodness.
It was horrible. I said, and I love the guy. He's my favorite brother. You always have favorites. And I had to say, we need to go to the hospital like quick.
Wow.
Yeah. You definitely need a diagnosis. I wouldn't even wait, and he's like, get out of here. You're full of baloney. You're just my little brother. You're just, yeah.
Right.
But he ended up having diabetes as well. So,
Goodness. Another similarity, though. My little sister got diagnosed shortly after me. But she figured out herself because she's a nurse. She was like, "Oh no, I know what this is." Oh man. Well, and
but
you, I know
sometimes you don't realize you even, I mean, my brother had no idea
you're right.
and he was felt fine.
And I mean, obviously, over the years, you've been making an effort. When we first talked, you were talking about the tries that you've had with this. What were the main struggles you had before starting working with us?
Knowing what to do. Like you, I tend to be a risk adverse. I have no problem trying different stuff out
Hmm.
to see what works. And I really, with all the experiences that I've had, I shouldn't be here right now. In fact, about an hour before the meeting, I found this in my I had a low blood sugar,
Hmm.
and I was working. I was in a car driving all over the place, and I was in my Volvo and hit a car head on. Didn't even realize it. Came to and they checked me out and everything, and I was okay. I was okay, thank goodness. But I didn't even realize what happened. I have done that again with three cars. I had three cars, came to, and I didn't even realize it happened. But when I went to go clear out my car, I found something pretty interesting, and I don't recall where I got this from, but this is now my mantra. And if you could see that,
Oh yeah. Want me to read it out?
oh yeah, and see this stain right here?
I
That
do.
was blood from when I got hit the windshield.
Oh, wow. Well, let's read this then. Life should not be a journey to the grave with the intention of arriving safely in a pretty and well preserved body, but rather to skid in broadside, thoroughly used up, totally worn out, and loud and proclaiming, "Wow, what a ride." I love that.
Yeah, I've had it ever since.
Wow. Well, and just to clarify, you said you went low before this. Was the car crash right before this, or is that a different story?
I know I've had this is spanning over 30 years.
Okay, I was like, just to make sure you don't need
Oh,
to go to the hospital right now.
no, 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 no,
A
no.
low happened, gotcha, and yeah, blood sugars are kind of struggling and being difficult. And what was that
Yeah,
like for you? Like before we talked the first time, what was? I mean, was it like frustrating? Was it just something you dealt with and thought this is just life, or scary? What were the thoughts behind that?
well, it was kind of, and I continued to try different things, but the problem you did it with intellect behind you. It was just a crapshoot for me,
Hmm.
which is a lot of people will do that.
Yeah.
But I saw so many people that just gave up,
Hmm.
and I refused to do that. And so yeah, it was without and it was interesting. After I had the couple accidents in the car, is when they came out with a Dexcom.
Ah, good.
That was huge. Yeah, that was unbelievable when they came out with that. Because I literally, in the middle of the summer, real hot temperatures, I
Hmm.
would drop so low that I don't know if you ever had those where you don't even remember what happened.
Yeah, a couple of those over the years.
Yeah, and I always felt, in retrospect, I always felt bad because my dad would always apologize, and then I realized after having that, I had no idea what I was apologizing for. I knew I did something wrong. That was weird.
Wow, so that's pretty impactful. Having moments where you don't know what you're apologizing for, right? But the lows just kind of wiping you out there. Um, so that was a big part of what was going on beforehand. I'm curious too. What made you pick some random guy on the internet to reach out to for help? Did you see some videos of me that you're like, all right, I got to talk to this guy, or what was the thought
Uh,
behind that?
no, you know what? I'm in the process of, and I haven't told I've told a few people this, but I'm starting a business as well,
Hmm,
but a different format. It's going to be a camp for people with I've been in medicine, like I say, my whole life. Diabetes isn't the only issue where doctors just say survive and not thrive. And
right.
that is exactly what brought me to you. Thrive,
Hmm.
survive. I've been surviving for too long. I got too much to do yet.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're not here to just survive, right? It's
Wow.
about figuring out how to thrive. I love that. Well, and then obviously we've been at this a couple of weeks, and on the coaching calls, I've seen the progress you've been making. What made you think, okay, this is actually working and got you excited? 'Cause I know you tried a few things in the past. What made this one different that you recognized there was progress being made?
Well, I'll be frank. Initially, I was skeptical, and
Hmm.
I apologize if I acted like a idiot on the internet and said some stuff. Those were all tests to validate what I thought I was getting into, and just some of what brought me to you is just some of the stuff that I saw, and the amount of education you provided on the internet for free. It's not done. Usually, people, not usually, I should say, because I've been burned on the internet before where they offer all this stuff, provide very little, and expect a lot of return. I think it's the opposite for you. And so that kind of intrigued me. And when the other thing so when I started down this adventure, that one time when we had to do basal testing initially that first week, that sucked.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it sucked. And the best sometimes, and I may have mentioned this, that accidents happen for a reason. They aren't necessarily accidents. And I did my first basal test from the dinner time platform from 6 to midnight.
Mhm.
And I've never done that. I didn't think a diabetic could go and fast.
Right. I was told the same thing.
Yeah, I never thought that could be done.
Hmm.
And a friend of mine that I mentioned, the individual that is a distance, runner,
Yeah.
uh, provided me opportunities to lose weight, but it was always a fasting diet that you had.
Oh, yeah.
I can't do that. And what happened is I turned off the control IQ and forgot to turn it back on when I got a little bit frustrated. I had a downslide and I made it barely. But I just said I'm going to bed. I'm just done. And so I went to bed and I forgot to turn off the control IQ. And amazingly, the next morning I woke up and it was a flat line all the way through and till it was like 9 o'clock and it was flat, like 130, 120, and
Wow.
did not budge. And then at that point, even though I was really, really hungry, I said, you know what, I'm gonna let it go. Let's see how long I can take it. And so I ended up well within range, flat line till about 1:30 in the afternoon.
Wow.
Yeah, then I had to eat something, man.
So you accidentally forgot to rely on the fancy algorithm and just your manual settings that we worked on, and boom, it worked, and you accidentally discovered you're good.
Well, and more than that, at that point I realized I gotta put forth effort in this first because Matt, you're changing people's lives.
It's a joy watching all of you just transform, honestly. And it's a similar process that I went through where I had a similar moment as well, where all of a sudden a light bulb went off in my head, and I was like, wait, this thing's actually controllable. I can control my blood sugars. This is wild. Okay, I'm going to try, put my best foot forward. So thrilled.
You even believe how frequent I've talked to my brother, the guy, he's a diabetic as well.
Yeah.
And he'll probably be a one of your clients soon because he doesn't believe anything I tell him because that sounds pretty. out of the box.
Mhm.
And I've expressed this before. I don't know why the medical community doesn't share this. You deserve to be mainstream because if I'd learned this, 30 years ago, who knows? Where would I? Well, nah, I don't think so. I'd probably still be here. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in
Yeah.
the mainstream, obviously, I want these strategies to get out to everyone and become mainstream. But I got to admit, it's kind of fun being the outcast, the renegade guy that's like, we're different, you know? But it's so exciting to hear people like you who actually take action on these strategies and see massive success. I mean, what has been the biggest metric that you've seen change so far? Is it average blood glucose? Is it time in range? Is it not a number, but peace of mind? What's been the big benefit for you so far?
Well, I think the biggest benefit is being able to initially when entering this class or this project or whatever you term it as, I thought it would be all right. A plus B equals C, and it's basically saying that each one is different. The
Yeah.
fact that you're diabetic yourself is huge, and it kind of clicked to me when it provides me the opportunity to experiment under a much more controlled environment, um, and at more knowledgeable base backing that up than me just saying, you know what, I'm just good. I remember being in a getting ready to go on the finals for a tennis court.
Hmm.
I was 40. I'd played tennis all day. I was 40 and I couldn't go up. I ate like 10 candy bars because I only had 10 minutes to get back on the court
Oh no.
in the finals. And I had to cancel, I had to forfeit because I'm not going to go out there at 40.
Right.
But then you know what happened later in the evening. Yeah. And,
Skyrocket. It
yeah, and
all catches up, right?
that became unfortunately very routine. The last tournament I was in, made it to the finals and ended up in the hospital for 5 days. And it just, yeah. And like you had said before, all the doctors were saying, I not all, there were the occasional ones that are now part of my medical team.
Mhm.
They all said, well, maybe you should not play tennis, Keith.
Oh man.
And I'm
You're like,
like,
I'm a pro tennis player. I'm not going to stop.
provides me joy. No. I
Yeah.
said, well, then maybe I don't need to be your patient. And I left. I mean, I found some people that are willing to do it, willing to, like my endocrinologist I have now. He's different than most of the endos, and he's very supportive of your program and of some of the, like when I told him I was uh, going to test my basal on a fast, he was like, "Great idea."
Love
So
that.
yeah, and he was very unique in that regards. I think.
That's
Yeah,
so good.
that's primarily why I have become one of your biggest fans. But in addition to that, I wanted to see how you structured it because I have, ideas, and it's been put in my heart for a long time to apply some of this stuff to other areas like stroke patients, heart patients, PTSD. The list goes on. It's a pillar of spiritual, mental, and physical all together. That's why I've enjoyed this, and I'm going to continue to bust through the rest of the education that I need.
Love that. I know, and that's the fun part too. We're just getting started, right? Like we're still in the program, so I can't even wait to see where you take this. And obviously, a big portion of this is the work that you put in. So I want to just say I'm proud of you for implementing. Right? I can teach you all the stuff, but if you don't do anything with it, it doesn't matter. So love seeing you just take it and run with it. Uh, I'm curious too, because you mentioned earlier you're a little bit of a skeptic, which makes perfect sense. The internet's a crazy place. What would you say now to somebody who is in the shoes you used to be in, who might be skeptical of something like this?
Well, my brother's skeptical.
Oh
He was,
yeah.
yeah, he's a perfect example. This is my brother who trusts what I say most of the time. And what I would say to them is, until you give it a try, you don't have the right to say that. And the one thing you're going to have to bring to make this successful for yourself is what most people don't have, and that's discipline. You need to employ discipline to get the best outcome. And that's what I would say to someone that, didn't think that this was of worth. This has been a lot more worthwhile than anything I've done for the last 30 years. Or yeah, 30 years. Yeah, I regret I didn't know this earlier.
That's what we're aiming to spread the word about. So people like you sharing stories like this to inspire others and see what is possible, right? To get the word out there. I love this.
Yeah.
I'm curious as well, before we wrap up, what is, we'll say, a golden nugget or something you've learned or something that stood out to you that you want to share with anybody watching this?
That's a tough one. I mean, especially if they're, of my age and have been diabetic for that long, that
Hmm.
you can thrive and not just survive. That impacted me. And of course, initially I was a little bit skeptical, but and when I started to see things actually develop, like the flat line and the potential control, and some of the stuff we covered yesterday, that's cool, man. No one's ever even brought that up in the whole time I've been in this medical community, and I'm sure there's other disease states like the ones I mentioned that are very similar, where they're told, well, here's what you need to do to survive and have a good day.
Right.
And, so there's a lot of opportunity to help people. And, I think that's just, nothing wrong with that. They're doctors and that's what, they're very good at what they do, and they do
Yeah.
keep you alive to
Mhm.
survive, but not to thrive. That is a pretty good one. I'm a poet and didn't know it.
I like that actually. Alive
Yeah.
and survive. That's a good one. And as you were saying that, that put an image in my head where doctors have way too many patients. We'll just say that. Like I'll give them some credit, right? They have a lot of people on their list. So they're trying to keep up all these balloons in the air. Like can't let the balloon touch the ground, right? And there's 100 balloons. And to me, that's why I go and hire specialists because they've got one balloon, right? And they're like, I'm going to take care of this balloon. We're going to make sure it's the best balloon. So it's so much easier when you have someone who's focused only on your thing versus a specialist or versus a generalist, right? And so it's not that I'm making fun of doctors or saying that they're terrible. I've found some good doctors over the years, but they have a lot on their plates. It's
They,
hard.
they do. I've been with these guys. I have a lot of friends that are physicians, and
Mhm.
they love what they do. They have a passion to do what they do. They often just don't have the time
Exactly.
and everything that they would. If they had the time, they would like do it. But
Mhm.
especially in managed care, they're under stress. You have 5, 10 minutes per patient, then on to the
Right.
next.
So
Uh,
true.
oh yeah, it's a brutal way to earn a living anymore.
Mhm.
And I give them all the credit in the world, and they can only do what they can do. And you
Yep.
have to be, but by the same token, you have to be willing to take responsibility for your own health. And
Exactly. I think that's the big gap, right? People think doctors are there to fix you, and they're not. They're there to keep you alive. And that's the end of their job. You do have to take some responsibility. And if you want the best for yourself, you got to go find the specialist, right?
you
Who's
know,
dedicated
a
their time for
lot of people aren't willing to do that. And when you are, but sometimes it's difficult to find the information. I've been trying to do this for 30 years, Matt,
that. Mm,
until I found you. And all of this stuff you're telling me, it's brand new. It's like mind
yeah.
blowing. Um, I didn't even know that was possible.
Well, to be fair, I did dedicate a decade to just doing this, so it wasn't easy to figure out.
Yeah,
You didn't miss anything on the internet; it just didn't exist before this.
yeah.
So I'm glad that you found your way over to us, and we get to map this thing out together. Was there anything else that you wanted to mention today that I didn't touch on that I forgot to ask about? You feel like we covered everything.
No, that's pretty. I've dabbled in all this stuff. I just didn't know to what extent you wanted me to uh, bleed in. I didn't know exactly where we were going. And no, I didn't. I'm looking forward to the next. I think I have another month or something like that. I'm looking to get as good as I can. I went on a long walk today, brought my blood sugar down about 50 points.
All right.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. But now my leg is killing me.
I'm sure. You want to offer context to everybody watching or leave that as a mystery?
Oh, I don't care. It doesn't matter. No.
So,
Yeah,
okay, I'll break the ice to that one. Keith break the ice, broke his leg, right? So Keith broke his leg, and yesterday I think it was. Cast came off. We're back to it, and now we're going to ramp up, get you back ready for the pro tennis tour, and ultimately get the blood sugars to cooperate along that athletic pursuit, right? And,
yeah,
I'm so excited for that for you.
yeah. So am I. It was always a struggle trying to compete at a high level
Mhm.
and able to. And I see that across the board with long distance runners, you know, all that stuff. Like guys like you, soccer players, um, and it's a struggle to learn how to thrive while doing that.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is absolutely a challenge to manage blood sugars with higher level athletics, but it's certainly possible. And that's the fun part when you start to unlock those formulas, those strategies, and actually get to focus on the sport, right? And not just surviving the sport, but getting better and actually being competitive with it. So it's
And
going
but
to be a
that,
blast.
that was interesting in that chart you showed with the 42 things that affected it. Just
Yeah.
the nature of sport, it some of those things will interact. And
Hmm.
so all those things are going to be of benefit if you can maintain control while doing the activity that you love.
Oh, absolutely. And the thing that you just mentioned, you're going to love my book when it comes out because that's a topic I go into pretty deep. There's a
All right.
lot going on beneath the surface with blood sugars, and I spend some time pulling it apart, so it'll be fun.
All
But
right. Cool.
I wanted to say, again, proud of you for the efforts that you're putting in. You are very disciplined and you're taking full advantage of the time and knowledge that we have, just running with it. But also want to say thank you for your time today, for coming on here, sharing a bit of your story and inspiring other people, showing them what's possible with diabetes. So thank you, Keith.
I hope they're not. I hope they listen to me. Yeah, I they should take
Everybody
this.
listen to Keith. Yeah.
Yeah, they should take this opportunity. I mean, it's of great benefit. But thanks, Matt.
Absolutely. Everybody else, yeah, thanks for hanging out. Actually, Keith, did you find us on YouTube or some video? Is that how you first found out about what we do?
No, I had a nurse practitioner that I also I have ADHD,
Hmm.
and my nurse practitioner, I mentioned obviously in the screening that I had diabetes, and she goes, "Have you ever seen Matt? How do you pronounce your last name? Vandegay?
Nobody knows. No, I'm kidding. Van de Vecht.
Vandevek? Yeah, Vandevek."
Yeah.
And she goes, "You got to look this guy up." And her son is one of your clients. He's a wrestler, a high school wrestler,
Oh, wow.
and she said, "Here's what we do. Here's how well controlled he is now, and it's all due to Matt." And I said, "Well, can you write down his name and stuff?" And that started the whole ball rolling at that point because this kid was a high school wrestler, wrestled I think 152 or something like that. But and I know that sport well. I used to manage that in college, and so I know the physicality and the demands on those guys.
That's tricky too. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So a previous client, but technically also your medical team was the one that recommended you to come see us and see what's going on.
Yeah, yeah, and it sounded intriguing because she wasn't recommending that I just go to another doctor.
Yeah.
I mean,
Very interesting. Well, that's
it's
good. She's open to new strategies. We're breaking through. I love it.
yeah, a little bit. One
Yeah, a little bit, piece by
time.
piece. Well, I'll tell you what, for anybody who is watching this, there is a more direct path if your medical team isn't on board with different strategies outside of the doctor's office. We do have a training online. You can go learn about formulas and kind of get your foot in the door, see if it's something that's interesting to you. So for anybody watching, you can go to diabetesinaction.com. It's a free training. Check it out, see if you like it. But Keith, again, thank you so much for your time today. Stoked about the next month plus ahead that we've got to get these things dialed in.
Yep.
And yeah, we'll keep making our way forward. Thanks again.
All right, Matt. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Everybody else, thanks for watching. Go check out that training. We'll see you next time.